I'm Richard Sher. Welcome to another Square Off. And what a panel we have assembled for you. Here is award-winning journalist with her all-new podcast, Maryland Capital, Jayne Miller. We have radio talk host and podcaster Dan Joseph. Hear his podcast at Dan Joseph's America. Baltimore attorney, the amazing Tonya Bana, and financial expert. He'll make money for you. Tyrone Keys. Well, the gates to the Attorney General's office are now shut for former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Donald Trump's nominee for AG withdrew his candidacy after sex trafficking and drug use allegations, his apparent participation in sex parties, and allegations that he had sex with a minor. All of these, he said, threatened to imperil his confirmation. Trump has then nominated Pam Bondi, a former Florida Attorney General, for the post of United States Attorney General. Tyrone, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I think that it's appropriate that Matt Gaetz stepped down. A lot of baggage that you don't want going into a Senate confirmation hearing. You don't want that cloud over any of your cabinet nominees, especially Attorney General. And it is true that the DOJ did a 2-year investigation. They decided they wouldn't prosecute, but I think it's best that he bow out. It does lend credence to the notion that maybe this was orchestrated to work out in this way, especially when you consider that Pam Bondi does look a hell of a lot more qualified for the position.
Jayne, what do you think about this?
Orchestrated? I don't think this was orchestrated. I mean, what you're saying is this set up to make the second candidate look better than the first? I mean,
actually, let me answer that real quick for you. I personally think that it may have been a test of loyalty for certain senators. It's my opinion.
I don't think
we'll never know.
That. My question is, why would Trump, appoint him in the first place? Knowing, I mean, the allegations against him were not secret. I mean, they were known, and that why would you put somebody up like that? That's obviously going to get a lot of pushback from some people, and that's obviously exactly what happened. But I don't think it was orchestrated.
Somebody suggested,
I think that Trump wanted to get him appointed.
Somebody suggested to me that it was all a setup, that it was Trump's way of getting Gaetz out of the Congress by anointing him as the nominee and then changing his mind after Gaetz resigned from the House. Is that plausible at all?
I don't think so. You're assuming that Donald Trump is playing four-dimensional chess, right? He's not playing four-dimensional chess. He's playing tiddlywinks or skittles or something on the floor, and everybody else is playing chess. But this is what I don't understand. This was a bad pick. It could have been seen that it was a bad pick coming from a mile away. I don't think it was orchestrated, but I do believe that this is a black eye for Trump. And what it shows people is that he hasn't learned anything since his first term, that he's still the chaotic kind of guy, that he still wants to put loyalists who may be unqualified, who are, have all sorts of scandals into his administration. This is what people don't like about Donald Trump, is this kind of chaotic appointees. And you can speak for other appointees too. Speak for Pete Hegseth. You can talk about RFK Jr. You can talk about Tulsi Gabbard. These are people who are not qualified in any way to serve, not only in the cabinet positions, but probably in government in general.
Tonya Bana, let's hear from you.
I agree 100% with everything that Dan said. And I think across the board, Trump's nominees are, primarily have been selected because of their loyalty to him. They're completely unqualified. Tulsi Gabbard, that's scary. I mean, from a national, security perspective, it is a terrifying thought to have her in that role. I will admit that I was, very depressed after the election results in the days immediately after the election. But I think Trump may be so over the top with these incompetent picks that he may actually drive Republicans who are still sane to work together with the Democrats in opposing his nominees.
Here's an interesting note. It is unclear if Gates can in fact return to Congress since he resigned from the current session, but had already been voted into the next session for his Florida district, or whether Trump will give him another position in his administration. Speak up, anyone.
Yeah, that is an interesting little nuance. We'll see how it works. It would be interesting from the standpoint of political science. Don't understand the hate with regard to the officer in the U.S. military, combat medic. Wow, talk about cool under fire. And the former Congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard, who I would dare say has done more in the service of the country than a lot of people who are in cabinet positions right now. So I guess you guys are going to run with the she's a Russian bot for the next 4 years. Somebody's got to be in league with Russia, right? Why not her?
It's not just Russia,
and if you
it's
look
Syria
at
too.
just a second, Dan, if you look at the cabinet picks for the current administration, the gentleman that is head of Health and Human Services, he's not a doctor. And if you look back, these people tend not to have a strong background in whatever the cabinet position is that they've been appointed to. That's Democrat and Republican.
Suggesting, as Tonya said, that Trump is just doing this to get loyal people there.
I would agree with that.
They don't have to have experience in the given field. What they do need experience in is how to run a massive part of bureaucracy. That's why you have somebody like Linda McMahon running the Department of Education now, or in the Trump administration. She has experience as an executive. Pete Hegseth, yeah, he was a great soldier, and we owe him our respect. But that doesn't make you qualified to run the largest department in the bureaucracy and one that is tasked with defending the American people.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think that the Pentagon, I would argue that is the most labyrinthian bureaucracy in our government. So I would not argue with you there. Personally, I would hope that there would be another pick for that particular position.
Well, and there are rumors that might be another one of Trump's changes. Jayne, I can feel the things going through your brain. Go ahead.
Look, I mean, Tyrone said, the current administration, the head of Health and Human Services, not a doctor. There's a big difference between being not a doctor and being someone who is anti-vaccine, who has threatened to fire 600 people at the National Institutes of Health as soon as Trump is inaugurated, who has threatened to suspend research on infectious disease. I mean, this is not someone that, in my opinion, in a vast bureaucracy like HHS, I mean, this is not someone that is going to be respected. And I think that's a really important term, is respected. When you look at the pandemic and what we went through with the pandemic we had some mild craziness going on compared to what could happen now. But, the credibility of public health and national public health is really important. It's important for each of us when we go to the doctor, for that doctor to have credible information about whatever it is we are suffering from and whatever medication it is that we need. It's really important. And this is not, these are like, it's like a bad joke in some cases. This is just, it's just baffling.
Tonya, see you nodding your head. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just also like to add that to me, Pete Hegseth's comments about the role of women in the military are disqualifying by themselves. The fact that he has declared that women should not be in combat, we're not fighting with bayonets anymore. There are a variety of roles that are critical to our success in combat, and women are a really important part of that. And the fact that he doesn't appreciate that, these women are not being given these roles, not meeting the minimum standards and requirements for the positions. They're absolutely having to pass the same physical strength tests that the men have to pass. Many of the women who are in our military, I'm quite sure, are stronger and better equipped for combat than the average man on the street today. So that to me is very troubling, because it plays into this whole kind of machismo, very cabined definition of what it means to be a man. And we're past that as a society, or at least we should be.
Okay.
I mean, he has said that, he wants to get DEI out of the military. I mean, somewhere along the line, and I don't know where and how this happened, DEI became the dirtiest word and the worst word in America. I do not know, but that is clearly something that the Republican Party uses as political leverage. I don't know where that happened along the line.
I can tell you, Jayne, it's not an accident. I mean, you've got organizations like the Heritage Foundation, and other organizations that are funding litigation to attack DEI, that are using brand messaging to portray DEI as something other than what it is. I mean, I can tell you as an employment lawyer, DEI is not about putting unqualified people in roles. It is about ensuring that we're considering everybody and getting the best qualified people who we may have overlooked before because we historically have only looked in certain places or looked at friends and family. That's what it's about. It absolutely is why we had Colin Powell. And so
Colin Powell rose to prominence based on his merits, as did Brigadier General Janine Levesque,
so I'm saying that
as did the Tuskegee Airmen, as did a host of other minorities in the military when they were given an opportunity to succeed based on their merits.
Let Tonya finish.
Colin Powell would not have been promoted to the what was his
Joint Chiefs of Staff
at the time. He would not have been in that role, but for the fact that his predecessor insisted that he be given a diverse slate of candidates before making that promotion. He was not considered as an initial matter.
So you're saying that Colin Powell's merit played no part in the decision to promote him?
I feel like we're having
this kind of skin color.
This is making the assumption that America is this fundamentally racist place, and that is something that people the voters. There was a huge backlash against this obsession that the left has with identity politics right now, and saying that this is a discriminatory country and we're horrible. People don't like to hear that, and when you put in DEI and you're giving some people advantages, it's saying, oh, the system is so systemically racist that they can't possibly get there on their own, and I fundamentally disagree with that.
All right, here's what we got to do. We need to take a break. I do want to close with this. The president-elect has made it perfectly clear to the Senate Republicans that if anyone votes against his nominees, they're going to be sorry. And on that note, we're never sorry to introduce the award-winning voice of Square Off. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, looking young and dapper, Howard Mallison. How?
Yes, and I served 6 years proudly in the United States Army.
By the way, Howard, all of
sir.
In the universe, thank you for your service.
You're welcome,
Howard. Maybe you should be Secretary of Defense.
I'm thinking about it. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable, so much so that you can't walk down the street without people coming up and thanking him for telling it like it is. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor, nurse on staff. In fact, you should call Barry before you call the insurance companies. His clients will tell you that Barry gets you more compensation than you ever expected. He's that good. So give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let him know that you heard about him on Square Off. The Ravens gained a little last night because the Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Cleveland Browns. So the Ravens' quest for a Super Bowl is still alive. So what better way to watch a game than going to Pappas sports bars and restaurants? You can dine in the sports bar surrounded by more big screen TVs than you can imagine, or you can have a gourmet meal in the dining room section of Pappas. Either way, you can enjoy the award-winning Pappas crab cake, imperial crab, and much, much more. Plus, they ship crab cakes all over the country. And
That's
yes,
right.
Oprah gets her crab cake shipped there all the time. At Pappas, you'll enjoy a dining experience second to none. Tell them Richard sent you for the.
Fab cakes.
There you go. Back to you, Richard.
Okay. So there are problems over at MSNBC. Their contributor over there, Jennifer Rubin. First of all, there are reports that MSNBC is for sale. So perhaps the four of us or the five of us should buy it. Anyway, contributor Jennifer Rubin has called for a viewer boycott of its Morning Joe program. This after super liberal co-hosts Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, who have attacked Donald Trump for several years, calling him, among other things, Hitler, traveled to Mar-a-Lago last weekend. They had asked the president-elect if they could come talk. He brought him down, and they had a face-to-face with Trump. Tonya, Bana, what do you think about what's going on over at MSNBC?
Well, I think it's really sad, and I think it is reflective of a larger pattern and trend among the Democrats, this kind of self-flagellation that's going on in the wake of the loss to Donald Trump, and it's not warranted. Folks, we're still counting votes, and the election's a hell of a lot closer than we thought it was on election night. He doesn't have a mandate. It isn't the case that 60% of Americans are racist. So, let's just take a pause, folks. And before we go to Donald Trump hat in hand, begging for forgiveness, let's let the dust settle. I think it's really unfortunate. And it speaks to this kind of, dear leader view of the president. And I don't think that we should be accommodating that. If anything, I think that people should be rejecting it strenuously.
Jayne, you were nodding.
Well, I think Joe and Mika probably opened themselves up to this kind of criticism, but I agree with Tonya. I mean, it's not at all unusual for people who are in the media to sit down and have a conversation, excuse me, with an elected official. And, I don't know why there's such backlash to it. I watch them a lot, and I don't think their tone has changed at all. Maybe they should have done it by inviting them on the show. So
Right.
everybody could see what was being said, and it didn't feel like this, little conversation over cocktails. And so I think we're just in this time where, people are not they get their information where they want to get it based on what they hear, and they're not really interested. I mean, Dan said this. I mean, they're not necessarily interested in the other side. They're interested in hearing what they want to hear. And that's why you see all these different forms of podcasting. You can cover niche topics, et cetera, and give people what they want to hear. I think it's unfortunate. And I also agree with Tonya that at this point, with votes still being counted, Trump's lead, now he's obviously won the Electoral College. I'm not saying anything about that, but his lead is the smallest since, I think, 1888. This is definitely not, he's under 50%, and this is definitely not this kind of, clear mandate, 60% of the vote. No, not anywhere close. This is going to come down to maybe 1.3, 1.4 million votes nationwide.
The co-hosts say they asked to meet with Trump to restart communications, saying, quote, "We aren't here to defend or normalize Donald Trump." Tyrone, where do you stand on this?
Well, you know what they call the guy with 270 electoral votes? They call him Mr. President. So all of this Monday morning quarterbacking about the numbers might be cathartic for the other side. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is president for the next 4 years. Mika and Joe miscalculated based on information they were privy to about the financial situation over at MSNBC. They know that CNN is firing hundreds of people. They know that ratings have plummeted in the wake of the election. And I suppose they were just trying to, hey, look, these are two people that got two incomes in the same household based on one TV show. So I think they were trying to figure out a way to bring the ratings back up. But the problem is, Edward R. Murrow didn't ask to go and sit down with Goebbels after World War II. I mean, they programmed their audience to believe that he was Hitler, he was this, he was that. And then the audience is like, hey guys, why are you meeting with this guy after you told us that he's the devil incarnate? So read the room. They left.
Dan, why are you smiling?
No, I agree to a certain extent. I think this was a good thing, though. I think that the olive branch that was extended by Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, which is, they were friends with Donald Trump before. I think that's positive because there's too much division in this country. But I don't believe that the Democrats' response, how the boycotts were coming, and Jennifer Rubin and many Democrats have said, well, I'm not watching the show anymore. I don't really think that's appropriate. And I wish we would get away from this end all and be all of, well, I'm just not going to associate with anybody who disagrees with me or anyone who tries to normalize or talk even to Donald Trump. That's really not the way things are supposed to work. We need to have a system where we can be cordial with each other and we can be friendly with each other, even though we take shots at each other all the time in American politics.
This is why the Democrats lost. Frankly, it's not because we don't have the numbers. It's because people stayed home, and people stayed home because they feel betrayed. They feel like the party is, in fact, marketing to Republicans. And in fact, that's what Kamala Harris was doing at then, marketing to Republicans instead of shoring up the base, instead of reassuring the major constituencies of your support that you're going to advocate for the policies that bring together this broad coalition of people with progressive attitudes. That's the problem. And that's the problem with Mika and Joe, is that they basically betrayed their core audience by going, it's disgusting that they would meet with this man. And I have to say, my husband would never, ever, I don't mean to sound old-fashioned, but my husband would never sit down and meet with a man who talked about me the way Donald Trump talked about Mika after they met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago the last time. Never in a million years.
Let me say this. I think it's in the interest of the country to have multiple political ideologies and, two or more political parties. Okay, that's healthy. But let's be clear about why the Democrats lost. The Democrats did not sufficiently address the economic situation. Now, you got a whole lot of people, oh, the economy's great. Beef is $7.99 a pound. If you've got a family of four making the average wage in America, that's tough. Housing is more expensive than it has ever been. Now, we'll say this. Trump talked a lot about inflation, but what he needs to talk about is the things that the government can do to get out of the way of wage growth. Inflation is ever present. What we need is wage growth to match it. So the Democrats, it's amazing because you guys have James Carville, who came into that Clinton campaign when he ran against George H.W. Bush, and he said it's the economy, stupid. Clinton's campaign pivoted to that, and they wiped the floor with H.W. Bush, who had just come off of a successful Gulf War. Carville was out there this time pretty much saying the same thing. Nobody listened.
All right, Ty. Thank you. Look, Howard Mallison is coming back, and then we're going to talk a few minutes about a name that has not been in the news for quite a long time, Martin O'Malley. How about that? Howard, go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. It amazes me that the way people drive. I don't know if you've experienced personally, but I have. I've seen these people cut in front of me and I have to hit my brakes to avoid hitting them or them hitting me. It's horrible out on the highways, weaving in and out of lanes. It's really no wonder that there are so many accidents. But Leading Edge Auto Body and Mechanical Repair want you to know that the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. Check out their reviews on Yelp and their 5-star reviews on Google. Leading Edge works on all makes and models and offers free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give them a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. And without a doubt, Baltimore is one of the best, if not the best, diner towns in the country. And the most popular and award-winning of them all are the Double T Diners. TT, totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The Double T menu offers you so many choices, you're going to want to order everything. And everything is delicious. Plus, you have to save room for dessert. While White Marsh, with locations at Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, Monday nights are Lobster Night at By the Docks in Middle River, all part of the Double T family. Back to you, Richard.
Okay, Howard, thank you. And we do take our cars to Leading Edge Auto Body Mechanical. Jeff is unbelievable. Car looks like new. And speaking of new, somebody wants a new job. He's former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley apparently misses the action of the politics. He's resigned his job as head of the Social Security Administration and has become the first candidate to formally enter the race for chairman of the Democratic National Committee. O'Malley telling the New York Times that he is a proven operational leader and a turnaround manager, adding, quote, "We face enormous challenges and a lot of soul searching. We need to focus on fixing the problem and not the blame." Jayne, what do you think about O'Malley taking this position or running for it?
Well, I think we've kind of had this little bit of a conversation about where the Democrats are in, 2024 after losing the presidential election. I mean, just another aside about that, I think it's interesting that in many of in a number of the key states, the Democratic Senate candidates won, but not the president. And so you have to explain why. And this is a very good question. So why did Democrats skip the presidential race and vote down the ballot for Democrats? That's an interesting question. And
Excellent
the next
question.
DNC chair is going to have to answer that. There's another issue that nobody's talked about it today, at least, is the amount of money that the Republicans spent attacking transgender people and the transgender issue and focusing on the transgender issue, which, I mean, I've read polling after the election that was very critical with independent voters in swinging their vote. And the Democrats had no answer to that. They had no answer to the amount of energy and resources that were being poured into ads and other messaging on the issue of transgender rights, anti-transgender rights. So is Martin O'Malley the guy? That's an interesting question. I mean, he's obviously had a lot of experience. He has not had experience in politics since 2014. Had a brief run for president, et cetera, but I'm not sure that what the Democrats need is someone who is kind of from a past era of, governance and politicking, et cetera, and has been kind of out of the picture for the last couple of years. I don't know. He obviously has governance experience and he has now bureaucratic experience because he was heading Social Security for a bit. So I don't know. I don't, my guess is he's not going to be picked. I could be wrong. We can come back to that at a later date. I don't think he's going to get picked.
Okay. Dan, what do you think? Hey, Howard, do you still see me? I'm just curious.
I see you perfectly, yes.
Because I hit something I shouldn't have hit.
Well, okay.
Dan, what do you think about Martin O'Malley for this job or running?
Well, it's an important job. It's going to be a job that's very high profile coming up because the Democrats really are leaderless as of right now. Yeah, you have Hakeem Jeffries. Yes, you have Hakeem Jeffries in the House, but at the same time, the DNC chair has a little more flexibility on where they can go. But the real question about whether Martin O'Malley should be the DNC chair and is a good pick for it is, how good is he at raising money? Because that's what the DNC and the RNC, that's what their primary function is right now. They want somebody who's going to be able to bring in a lot of cash. And I don't know how good Martin O'Malley is at that, but that I think will be the first goal of the Democrats who select the DNC chair.
Ty, what do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tonya.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tyrone.
I
was just going to say that the two
No, you go ahead.
The last two things we talked about in terms of the fact that transgender issues was important to people, and the fact that the economy made people vote for Donald Trump, this billionaire who doesn't care about anybody but himself. I think what both of those issues underscore is the importance of marketing and brand marketing, and that's going to be a key factor and responsibility for whoever ends up taking that role. The Democrats are doing a terrible job of conveying their values and who they are and distinguishing themselves from the Republican Party in a way that will motivate most voters. And they are allowing elections to be driven by these fringe issues. Quite frankly, transgender rights is only of consequence to the people who are transgender, and we need to protect them. The biggest issue is that they are victims of crime and they're discriminated against. We need to protect them. There is no issue for the larger population when it comes to that issue. It is a distraction.
Well, guys, I want to thank you all. We're a little short on time right now. Very interesting discussion. Very, very interesting. What's going to happen with the Democratic Party?
Real quick, Richard, Josh Shapiro. I don't know what his term looks like, but he's very articulate, relatable. I think he would be a good standard bearer.
He's a potential candidate.
Yeah,
right.
Could be president.
That's true too.
Well, Wes Moore's name's been mentioned too recently. Okay. Thank you all so much. I want to congratulate our panelists for a great show. Jayne and Tyrone, Dan and Tonya, and all of you for watching. We appreciate it. Our audience continues to grow, and we really thank you for that. Until next week, then, I'm Richard Sher, and we'll see you again next time when we square off. Bye-bye, everybody.